let's say the headline would be in the corridors of power from the Security Council to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Defense. They are ready. Their interpretation is that the order has been given without details for a hot war of Europe against Russia. So all their decisions follow this parameter. It's very, very serious. They have been considering for months. They have seen red line after red line being trespassed. President Putin at in St. Petersburg last week, in fact, he talked about symmetrical responses to this authorization, which we already know has been given months ago to attack assets of the Russian Federation inside Russia. So the escalation is inevitable, and Russia is prepared for the escalation. This is extremely, extremely worrying. I was talking to a high official from the Ministry of Finance yesterday night, and they are afraid. And at the same time, there is internal dissent on how best to proceed to fight the new tsunami of sanctions. So it's
Let me follow up a little bit. When you say
yes,
the order has been given, do you mean that the Russians believe the Western order has been given to
yes,
escalate this, or the
yes.
Russian order has been given to prepare for this, or both?
No, no, it's defensive. Their strategy is essentially defensive. They assume that the people who actually run the show, I'm not talking about emissaries or vassals or paid functionaries like Sullivan, Blinken, etc. The people who really run the show, the Atlanticist show as a whole, especially in the US. The anathema, the absolute anathema, is that the defeat in Novorossiya is practically inevitable. All our friends who come to your show, they know that, and
Right.
everybody talks about that. And here in Russia, they are pretty confident that it's a matter of time of when and how they're going to finish, when and how is going to be the end game. The problem is they also know that this anathema, from the point of view of the US and NATO, is stratospheric. And there was never a plan B. The plan B, which we are seeing now, is this ramping up of terror attacks against Russia. Like you have, for instance, Kiev's goons, let's put it this way, um, with cluster munitions exploding in parks in Belgorod. And the targets are going to be children who play in these parks. And
Hmm.
they are attacking civilian targets around on the other side of Kharkov, and especially in Belgorod and in Sumy as well. So, and there's now a consensus, even a popular consensus in Russia, that this has gone too far. So there are people actually claiming out loud for a decapitation strike or to finish it off. And in terms of businessmen, this is something that you could hear on the sidelines
Wow.
in St. Petersburg last week. Why don't we finish this thing now? Because this almost war, this is the current term in Moscow, has gone too far.
We, from time to time, have an American scholar of Russia who understands Russia very well. I think you know him, Dr. Gilbert Doctorow, on.
Of course,
Right.
yes.
And he has told us he expects the decapitation, and the decapitation would be the leveling of Kiev, and it would be done in a couple of days. Is that something that the Kremlin is considering in order to bring this war to a termination before it's escalated into a NATO versus Russia land war?
I would not say in a couple of days. Well, I'm sure Gilbert has excellent sources, of course, but what some of us have been hearing is something that could happen in a window of the next 3 months. Yeah, one of my latest columns, I